Welcome to the Game Informer Show, a weekly podcast covering the video game industry. Join us every Thursday, or Friday on this week, for a discussion about the latest gaming news, reviews, and exclusive reveals alongside Game Informer staff and special guests from around the industry. I'm one of your hosts, Charles Hart, and today I'm joined by Wesley LeBlanc.
Hello. I'm back. I'm barely alive in the throes of COVID.
Wow. And making sacrifices to be here.
Yes.
To serve your magazine.
It's not much of a sacrifice. I'm on like day 7 and feeling pretty normal, so I actually wanted to come on and talk and do something other than rot away in my quarantine couch.
Fair. And Eric Van Allen.
Hello. Week 2. I'm still alive. I'm still going.
It's we're having a great week at Game Informer when everyone's introduction is like, well, we're alive. That's the bar right now.
The worst part about this kind of stuff like these weeks is like it all just stays with us. Like none of it gets to go out and no one knows why.
Mm-hmm.
These weeks are hell, but wow, is this week hell? Not Game Informer's fault. Like we're
it's my fault, everybody. I did it. I walked in the room and I knocked everything over.
So bad.
It was terrible.
It was funny. Just listeners, it's a bunch of like scheduling stuff, and people are sick and everyone's traveling, so we're just shorthanded. And then the travel, there's all these mix-ups and whatever. And in one of our meetings, editor-in-chief Matt Miller was like, "Eric, just so you know, this is a crazy week." And Eric's like, "I get it. It's just Tuesday." And we're like, we can't emphasize enough how much this is not just Tuesday. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Usually things are chill, but
I was talking to Brian earlier today. I told him, you don't sign up for the big leagues and then train for T-ball. You know, you show up to play, and sometimes things go a little bit awry. This is what you suit up for. This is what the professionals handle. It's all good.
It is funny though, because it's like that metaphor is kind of like you're getting ready to hit really fast baseballs, and it's like we're doing that, but also right now the field is flooded with like 3 inches of water and nobody knows why. And that doesn't really have to do with the baseball skills you've accrued, but we all have to deal with it on top of that.
Exactly. You're trying to hit baseballs, the field is flooded, the ump behind you has like a shoe that he's trying to thwack you in the head with while you're not looking. Yeah, it's there's always
abusive ump.
Yeah.
Honestly, I want that to be a game where you are just like the umpire in a baseball game and you just like call the most annoying plays and you hit people.
I was gonna say, let me tell you about the magical game of Blaseball that ended all too soon. Didn't quite have that, true, but had some elements of that.
Definitely the closest thing. Well, this week we got a fun show for you. We're going to be talking about Mafia: The Old Country. I'm going to be talking about my trip to Gen Con, and then Wes is going to talk about his reviews for Wheel World and Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Before we get started, just as always a reminder, we make a magazine. You can subscribe to it at GameInformer.com/subscribe. Our next issue coming out is the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 issue. So if you subscribe now, you can read that digitally. I think we've passed the window for physical. So if you subscribe now, you'll get whatever the next issue is after that in your mailbox, and then 10 issues for that year-long cycle. But yeah, that was my first cover story. That was very fun. Game looks cool. I'll have some more coverage going up, but if you want to read that and all the other stuff digitally, like, you can subscribe there. Anything else? Any other housekeeping stuff? I think that's good. Let's just jump into Mafia: The Old Country. This is a Mafia prequel, I believe. And Wes, you're the one that you just put your review up today, day of recording.
Yes, yeah. Mafia: The Old Country, which is out. When you're listening to this, it's already out. It is a loose prequel. Like, it takes place in the same universe, and it's the earliest portion of the Mafia series timeline. But for the most part, it is standalone. Unless you're like familiar with last names and locations in Mafia. But for the most part, you can play this and not worry about anything that comes after. Although the games that come after are really great, better than this game, unfortunately. So I gave Mafia: The Old Country a 6. I wish I was giving it a higher score because I really, really loved the Mafia series. I especially loved Mafia Definitive Edition in 2020 or 2021. And this game was supposedly taking a lot of cues from that, like in the lead up to the game's release and the press and marketing and whatnot. So I was really excited for it, but ultimately it's just it. Oh, what?
Sorry, I was going to ask, as someone who doesn't know Mafia,
Yeah,
was the definitive edition, was that like a full remake?
it was
or was
a
that
very
just-
very pretty, maybe Unreal Engine 5, if not like a very late Unreal Engine 4 remake of the first Mafia game.
Okay,
which
cool.
is my favorite of the series. And it's like a type of game we just don't really get anymore, in the sense that like it's here's some missions, play each mission, and then you have a story that plays throughout each mission, and then the game's over, and there's not really much to do. Which people liked, and Mafia 2 opened up a little bit. Mafia 3 went way too wide as an open world game, way too checklisty, and people were like, whoa, 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 none of that. So when Definitive Edition came out, it was like a return to form, and it did well enough that I think 2K Games, the publisher, and Hangar 13 was like, oh, we should maybe return to our roots. And that's what Mafia, the Old Country, is trying to do. It is, it's some acts, and there's like quests within each act. But it's basically like point A to point B to point C to the end of the game. Like there's no real reason to explore. There are some collectibles out there, and there's like a kind of hard to find explore mode if you want to go out there and search this beautiful world for those collectibles, but you don't really need to.
Hard to find how?
Because you have to go to chapter replay, and then at the top of that, which is like on the main menu, you have to go to explore, and then explore puts you into the world without any like quests or anything. Like you can't just necessarily mosey around in this world. If you want all the collectibles to be on the map, you need to be in the explore mode, which is an odd choice, but honestly, I don't think it's one people are gonna. There's no reason to go find the 50 weird perk collectibles or like the newspapers unless you just want to be in this world more. Which Hangar 13 is aware of. Like they have been saying this is a linear, story focused game, and it is. There is a like a huge emphasis on the storytelling. It's just unfortunately for me, it didn't really pan out to be much. I think kind of the thesis or crux of my review is everything in Mafia, the Old Country, you've seen before, and there's a good shot it's been done better. The story is not really going to surprise you, and it's going to be very predictable. In some instances, like so predictable, and I don't want to call it like Chekhov's gun type stuff, but like I think they were leaning way too much on like teases. It's so obvious where the game goes. And if you're familiar, I don't even think you need to be familiar with like Mafia media, like in pop culture, to know where the story is going. Like it's a very basic premise. That said, it's still an enjoyable one. Like it's still fine. It's a fun Mafia story. I'm always game for these types of stories. They don't need to be surprising every single time, but given the storytelling throughout the series, I kind of did hope this one would be a little more impactful. There are a couple good things. Oh, I have like a nice little fun Persona background on my computer, and then now I'm like, I look over and I see like, is that
Firehouse Subs?
It's the best case for YouTube Premium we've ever seen on a podcast.
we are not sponsored by Firehouse Subs, although
It's also funny because if you had YouTube Premium, you still have to see these ads in the background.
Wait, do you really?
I'm saying because you'd be watching, someone at home would be sitting on their couch watching Game Informer show,
right?
And then even within the Game Informer show, we have an ad in the background for Firehouse Subs.
It'd be wild if the YouTube Premium turned off your ads on other people's ads. You know what I'm saying? Like you were watching
that's like
this.
some cyberpunk nonsense. Yeah.
Why is that not our cyberpunk future? You know?
Yeah. Why do we just have
ad
a
blocker.
dystopia? Yes. Firehouse. That sounds delicious right now. That said, the game is set in Sicily, which is they did a really good job of like creating an early 1900s Sicily, which I love. I really love Italy. My wife was born and raised there. Like I go to Italy often. It's a place I cherish in my heart a lot, which was one of the more exciting aspects of this game. And they did a really good job recreating that portion of Italy, which Sicily is like its own island. It's a very like unique part of Italy. There's also an incredible Italian dub that actually takes into account that it's set in Sicily, and they use the Sicilian dialect instead of the Italian dialect, which is great because the Sicilian dialect is so different that my mother-in-law, who is 100% Italian, born and raised there, very fluent, says that Sicilian might as well be like a different language. She can kind of understand it, but like you can't just... Italians can't go to Sicily and speak it as if they were fluent. It's its own thing. So she thought it was really cool that they use the Sicilian dialect versus the Italian dialect, which I think that's a really nice nod to detail that I'm sure a lot of people won't care or appreciate, but I do want to give Hangar 13 some credit there because I think that's cool.
I do also want your mother-in-law's opinion on other games. I like that as a concept of like a column of like my mother-in-law's favorite games that she's watched me play while she's like recovering from an injury, right, at your house?
Yes, yeah, she has broken her shoulder, so she's been living at her house for like a month and probably another month, and also the COVID I got hit her today, unfortunately. So now it's just my wife is the last bastion of immunal hope, and my daughter. Shout out to my wife because she is lifting mountains to maintain our household while we're all going through it. Shout out Wesley's wife, Gabby. Hell yeah. Shout out Italian women.
If there's one thing you take away from this episode of the Game Informer show, shout out Italian women. I was going to say, we need to get on your, instead of persona now, just like a carousel of pictures of your wife, of like, Wesley's wife.
I love anyways. I need to get like an I Love Italian Women shirt for next episode. I would like unironically wear that too.
I believe raising a lot of questions answered by my shirt, you know.
But yeah, so like the Italy part of this game, I think they really nailed. It's just like everything else is so boring's not the right word because I had to find time. It's just so middling. It's just depressingly middling. Like the gameplay seems cool at first. Like you're going around old Sicily, you're doing like shootouts, you're doing stealth sequences where you're stealthing through a warehouse and there's enemies with paths and you have to track their paths and then get behind them and choke them out or knife them, and your knife has durability and blah blah blah. But like what you play the first time during a stealth sequence is what you're going to play the last time during a stealth sequence. There is virtually no growth in systems or any kind of progression in that regard. You can unlock different knives. Maybe they do different things. I don't know. I switched around my knives and never really noticed much difference. The biggest one I liked was like it auto-looted enemies that I killed with the knife takedown. But like, I don't know. It's so mind-numbingly easy. And I was on like the standard difficulty, and I even went up to hard to see if that would change anything. And for the stealth, it didn't. I mean, it is the most bog standard stealth game, like crouch from cover, get behind somebody and choke them out. And you don't even have to be that like sly. You can, if they're looking at you, just walk faster and get behind them and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like for real.
I've been playing this too. And that was one of the first things I noticed was they give you the option. They say, you know, it's a big deal when you go buy your first knife and you go to a store and there's like an old lady who just has a box of knives that you're pulling from, and it's fun, it's flavorful, it's good. And then I was looking at all the stuff and I remember seeing one that was like, oh, like throwing knife takedown or something like that. It implied that there was a new takedown I was going to unlock. And then I did a stealth section right after it, and I just played it the same way because it seemed like it was very clearly signposted to be played in the way that the game teaches you how to play a stealth segment right at the beginning is, okay, well, there's two guys and they're talking and one's going to peel off that direction, one's going to peel off that direction, and they're going to look at a wall for a little bit and I'll give you time to go up and then throw them in a box and add repeat. I stopped looting the bodies after a while because I didn't see a huge point in it for me because I had more whetstones than I ever needed to keep my knife sharp. And honestly, there wasn't a ton of combat or anything to speak of that made me really want to engage with that stuff. So I was really surprised. And then to hear you come back and be like, oh, actually the game just does that. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of
funny.
A bummer.
The throwing knife thing. I had that knife. Like I unlocked a bunch of knives, just trying different things out. I never got a prompt or a tutorial or anything on the throwing knife takedown, so I don't know if it just means an animation that happens sometimes, which I did never see, or if there's like a whole system with that. But I was like, well, okay, stealth is stealth. It's like, and it sucks because I recently just played Eric Sholm, The Stolen Dream, and I gave that an 8, and that was a really good stealth game. That had my biggest problems with it weren't with the stealth. The stealth was amazing, and I really liked the way the AI moved around the world and acted a part of the world to like inhibit your stealthy progress. Like you said, Eric, these guys are just like standing around to be taken out.
They Blair Witch themselves into the corner,
yes.
so you can take them out one by one.
And I never noticed this brick before. Yeah.
You throw one coin and they're like, oh my God, I gotta go see that coin.
I forget which game it was where developers started having it so that if you threw the bottle and they could see the trajectory of the bottle, then the AI would be like, I saw you throw that across my field of vision, right? So if they saw it kind of go left to right across their path of vision, they'd turn and be like, I saw you throw that, dude. But in this game, I tried that, and he just looked immediately to the right, was like, what was that over there? And I was like, oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Is stealth like a significant portion of the game, or is it just like especially bad?
It's like it's a major portion of the game. Every sequence, 99% of the sequences start as stealth, and you can fail in stealth and then it becomes a shootout. But like the premise of the game is like, we aren't super abundant with guns. There's no Tommy guns. This is like 1904. Although like you can get guns pretty easily if you want. Like they put a lot of focus on the knife aspect of Enzo, the protagonist's like build, which is to say, like, if you fail the stealth and you go into a shootout, there's going to be guns everywhere. You can buy your own guns, but also every enemy drops their gun, and you can encounter every single gun in the game. Honestly, in like one shootout, they'd just be dropping all their guns everywhere. And the shootouts I enjoyed more than the stealth, but the shootouts again are nothing they're doing nothing unique or interesting. They are just third person cover, pop out and shoot people. The AI is not particularly good or like threatening. I just happen to enjoy shooting guys in the head with a shotgun more than slowly knifing them out. And I can get through encounters faster by shooting. But, I mean, there's not much going on here in terms of combat, whether you're stealthing or shooting, unfortunately.
It's a bit of a bummer because I was really excited about this game because when I think back to some of my favorite open world games and also kind of like crime-based games, crime story games, two that immediately jump to mind are Sleeping Dogs and Yakuza, games that I think make really good use of the fact that guns exist but are not prevalent, and it creates almost a sliding scale of how dangerous weapons are, and when you introduce a gun, like that carries consequences, that carries significant impact to the story. People can die now instead of just like punching each other. And Mafia, I thought, was going to do that for a while. I did think it was goofy how often you could kind of get slashed with a knife and still be walking around later. I was like, I don't think that's like something you just brush off, dude. I saw your lung get pierced.
Like, comedically large in some instances too. Like you buy it and it looks like a little switchblade, and then you go out there and he whips it out and it's like an 8-inch blade, and I'm like, that's a one-shot kill right there.
It's a decent blade. Yeah. And so I was kind of excited for that aspect. I was like, okay, we're gonna scale it back. Even when you watch, a mob movie, when somebody pulls a gun, maybe they pull a gun, but when somebody actually shoots it and uses it, that is an escalation. That is a heightening. And games often try to do that, but then video games are video games. You're going to shoot people because that's the video gamey, like, brain go burr thing that happens. And I was really excited for Mafia to kind of play around in that space, and it seems like it just didn't do much with the potential there.
Yeah. They do try to play into that space a little bit with what I'll call boss fights. It's one-on-one knife duels, which is cool because that does go back to like Sicilian mob history. They were big on knives, and like it was an honorable fight to like drop your weapons and fight each other with knives. But the game doesn't really like play into that enough. I'm not sure if I just know that because of my history with Italy, or if the game does a good job of explaining that, because often my dude's carrying a shotgun on his back, like a large shotgun. He's got a pistol shotgun and my knife. And then I'm about to go fight this guy. And all of a sudden those are gone and we just got knives out. And I'm like, well, hold on. I'm already doing bad things. I just murdered like 20 people with a gun. I have no problem just blowing your face off with a shotgun. Which there are other moments in the game where you have these big enemies that you think you would get an honorable death, and the game's like, nah, shoot him in the head. So it was kind of like funny to be like, okay, I guess we're doing a knife duel now because we have to do a knife duel. Which, like the rest of the game, the first knife duel you do is going to be the same as the last knife duel. There is a parry window that's pretty simple to hit. There is a evade window, which there's a big light, like a slash on their arm that lets you know you can evade. And you just want a perfect dodge and perfect parry so that you can counter with big damage. And other than that, you're just thrusting with triangle and slashing with circle and sometimes breaking their guard with R1. They're kind of like, they're so repetitive though. Every single fight, when you get to halfway health, there's like a cutscene where they struggle and like, oh, Enzo's not going to make it. And then, oh, you got to slam square over and over and over. And oh, he gets out of it. And now it's time for the second phase of the fight. No different from the first, just a kind of old school style QTE cutscene in the middle, which is fine. But whenever you do that like 15 times across 15 hours, it's like, what are we doing here? Why do we need to have this many knife fights? And they don't work.
It's like the make sure you're awake check, right?
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
You're still there?
Yeah. Like you got to.
Can I ask
press and square?
What it is about like the original Mafia games that you liked so much that you feel is like not present here or is just done not as good?
Yeah, honestly, I think, and I kind of touched on this in my review a little bit, as much as I love Italian countryside and like Sicily in the early 1900s, I do think the environment is kind of a detriment to the game because when you think of Mafia, like it's fun driving around in these like Prohibition era cars and going into flashy banks and casinos and underground bars, and the environments like scream Mafia and they give you some cool stuff. And there are some cool environments in Sicily, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, you're like traversing around dilapidated buildings and like Roman Grecian ruins that are like kind of destroyed and they kind of all look similar at a certain point. And you're just kind of like shooting out in the open. I've seen other reviewers call this game like almost like a Western, and I think that's a really good way to parse it. It's like it does feel more like a Western than a mob adventure game, which is fine and stuff. But for me, I was just kind of missing like the spirit of the mob. In Mafia 1, you're kicking down a door with Tommy gun in your hand and just like unloading on the place. Scarface style, that kind of thing. Like you're in these flashy environments that make you feel like you're coming up in the world as a Mafia member, and that's something I really appreciated. And I just think ultimately like the Metropolis environments that are in the games are probably just better. Like they just work better for this type of storytelling, especially Mafia Definitive Edition. That's Lost Haven, which is like Chicago-esque basically. It's bright neon lights, the water's reflecting off the streets, it's fun to drive around in the cars, and there's like a radio that plays like era-specific music. It just gets the vibe. It's a much better vibe for Mafia. And I guess there's no way to get around that if you're going this far back in the timeline. Like 1900 Sicily is a place that's well documented, and you can see that it is not Chicago or New York. But ultimately, it kind of just, as much as I love Sicily and the environment, it does take away from the mob and Mafia aspect of the game. But yeah, it's a mostly just forgettable game for me, which sucks because like I really do enjoy these games and I would like a reason to jump back in, but the story isn't all that compelling. The characters aren't all that compelling. You're pretty much getting your like cliche trope cast here. There's like a tropey romance, although very good Italian woman. I'm saying, I love Italian women.
It was gonna be a 5, but every Italian woman on the screen bumped it up to a 6.
Mm-hmm. I have 3 screenshots on my computer from this game, and all 3 are the same woman.
We pull up Wes's screenshots, and it's just like his wife's face photoshopped onto all of the women in the game. Like, wow.
Shout out Italia.
Shout out Italian woman.
Is there anything else I'm missing with this game? I don't think so. I think it had a lot of potential. I was really rooting for it. 6 isn't the worst score ever. I do think like, especially, and this is a $50 game too. I'm not really interested in like trying to like.
How long was it?
Like 12 to 15 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, you could probably beat it faster too. I tried to do some due diligence with like reviewing it, but I bet if you stuck to just like full on mainline, like maybe 10 hours. But yeah, it's a $50 game, so like budget title or whatever you want to call it. But I don't try to like quantize that into my review, like game's good or not without being $50. But like, if you're fine with like a fine Mafia game at $50, sure, go for it. If this was like $20, yeah, easy recommend. This is a fun little weekend whatever game. I just think set your expectations, because it's not up to par with the rest of the Mafia games. And I wish it was. I hope this is not like a death nail in the Mafia series. I do think there's some cool ideas here that the team could build on. I do think there's a lot more storytelling to be had in this universe, and they clearly care about it. But yeah, we'll see. I hope it sells well, I guess, despite me not enjoying it. Which is weird to say, but like, I love Mafia.
It is weird.
And
it is weird to be a critic and also a fan of a thing. Of like, so often I review a game and I'm like, this one's not it, but they should make another one, and if they learn from this one, it'll be better. But it's hard to be like, it's a 6 out of 10, and then what happens.
I mean,
Eric, are you more or less in line?
Yeah, I'm not nearly as far to feel like I could definitively put my own score on the paper, but when I was talking to Wesley about this stuff, I was kind of thinking about the parts that I liked so far and the parts that I hadn't liked so far, and it sounded like the parts that I hadn't liked so far would continue to propagate, mainly the kind of missions that I didn't really like. I don't love a mission where you described it super well in your review, Wesley, that you get on a horse, go somewhere, talk to somebody, get back on your horse, go somewhere, talk to somebody. And it's like, I compared it to like a Sorkin walk and talk is just a ride and talk where you're just going from place to place to place and talking the whole time. And I think that became a staple of open world games, especially, games like Red Dead. Love that stuff. And I think it can work to varying degrees, but it can weigh on you too, especially if the things you're doing when you get to a place are not inherently interesting. You're kind of just showing up and standing there while two characters talk or watching a cutscene and then leaving. It's like, okay, there was one cool moment in one of those where it was when you're first given a gun and you're told to basically intimidate someone with it. So in the middle of talking, you pull the gun out and you point it at somebody, and then he's like, he's not giving up the money that you need to collect. And so the guy's like, you know what to do. And then the objective thing is like, hey, point it at his son. And it's like, okay, now we're doing like mob stuff. Now we're doing...
Yeah.
And I imagine that doesn't happen very often in the rest of the game. That felt like a very mission-specific moment.
Only time.
Yeah. But that stuff is cool, but it sounds like there's not enough of it to carry the full game. And that's kind of a bummer, because I liked Mafia 3 more than most, I think. That was actually my personal favorite in the series. I think Mafia 2 is okay. I never played Mafia 1. I should go back and rectify that at some point, but I actually liked the story and the setting and the theme of Mafia 3 a lot. It had a decent time with the action of it too, more than most.
Mafia 3's story is like, it might be the best. It's awesome. And the things they do with like that period of history is really cool. It was like a product of its time, 2015 or 2016, like Ubisoft checklist type open world.
Which is weird, because Mafia, the Old Country, feels like a product of that time in some ways. Like, it really reminds me of playing a game from that era, a decade ago or so. And in some ways, I think we are seeing an almost revival of the Xbox 360 mindset of, here's this tight, focused, quirky single-player action game. We're moving away from like the super prestige AAA games, and we're moving back to sort of like reasonably scoped and budgeted single-player action games. And I like that a lot. I think there's some cool games coming out because of that, but I don't know if Mafia handled the jump so well. I do hope there's more, because I like a good mob story, man. It's good. And I was really excited for this one. I'm a little bit basic and all that, but I love Godfather Part 2. I love Vito. I love all of that stuff. So I was really hoping for some of that to come through here.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned about the riding on the horse or like in a car and going from place to place is there's like interesting conversations that happen atop those horses. It's kind of like B stuff, but then the game also just says like, it puts a little prompt like skip drive or skip walk or whatever.
And like, interesting.
So I'm like, okay, well, are you even like confident in the writing here, or like there's like, it's like a war of two worlds. Like one group's like, well, people don't want to drive for 10 minutes to the next destination, and then the writers are like, well, we wrote really good dialogue, and I was like, it was just weird to see that. And I often end up did skipping because I was like, well, if they don't want me to drive, if they're not interested in giving me something for 15 minutes, then I will. Because sometimes the conversation was good. They would go the whole 15-minute drive, and then other times it would be like 30 seconds, and then it's just quiet. And I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah, usually
Italian countryside is...
in like LA Noire, they would do it to where they would do the conversation, and then when it ended, the little thing would pop up and be like, hey, do you want to finish the ride? Like,
Yeah. No, not this. This is just like skip it all if you want. Who cares? Last thing, none of this is in my review because this is like, I don't know, I guess experimental tech on PC, but like the DLS and NVIDIA stuff is like kind of borked right now. If you use the frame generation stuff to like get your frame rate up, it's a mess. It gets very blurry and like kind of sludgy on the outsides, and the captions and any UI on the screen gets real shaky and weird. Don't recommend. And then the DLS like resolution scaling stuff is pretty wonky too. Pretty much just if you're going to use any of the DLS and the stuff like DLSS stuff, your game's going to be a little weird sometimes. And also, me and Eric both had this problem. I don't think it has to do with like the experimental tech. I think it's just the game. If you're playing on a frame rate higher than 30 or uncapped, like I was, for example, when the cutscenes, which go down to 30, happen every single time, it will have a weird 3-second stutter where it's like trying to jump from 120 frames to 30. Funny, it sometimes ruins very impactful moments at other times. And obviously just ugly to look at. But I wouldn't say it's like broken on PC or anything, but be aware of those issues.
yeah, I was playing uncapped. I was joking with Wesley that my whole week has been playing the game of how do I make this look good? Because, you know, I'm over here recording B-roll and everything, the B-roll that you're probably watching on whichever side of the screen that I put it on. But there was all kinds of stuff with screen dooring faces on some of them, weird pop-in depending on what DLSS I was using, because it has... I believe FSR, DLSS, and whatever Unreal's version is, all as
TSR.
options. And I think it's worth mentioning for PC specifically because you have to flip through some weird settings and toggles to turn it off. Getting to the point where everything is turned off was actually kind of difficult to find in the menus compared to other games that have had those options before. It seems like they wanted the player to use them, and every time I used auto detect to kind of say like, okay, well, recommend me my system settings based on what I have, which is pretty beefy. I've got a 4070 Super in mine and a pretty decent CPU, and it was showing on the meter like you have 11 gigs of video card available. You're going to use 2. And I was like, what are you talking about? Why are we doing it this way? And it would always be like, oh, just use the DLSS, use the FSR. It'll reduce the load. And then you would have weird effects, weird hair, weird faces, screen dooring during pivotal moments. And I was having to go back and re-record scenes because I was like, that looked not good. that didn't look good. So I'm curious to see if once this game is out and open, if there will be driver updates. You know, there's always kind of day 1 graphics drivers or even day +5 graphics drivers that kind of try to tune this. But I am curious to see what the long tail on this looks like, what the Digital Foundry take on it looks like.
Yeah, with shout out. They just went
shout out
this week.
Yeah.
Of note, only Steam codes for pre-release. So like, they're trying. They have a PS5 Pro patch coming, and on PS5 base, they want performance to be 60 FPS, but they weren't sure if they were going to hit that. From what I've read online, and none of us at staff have codes for consoles, so like, yeah, wait for Digital Foundry, or you're going to be testing it yourself. PC's a little weird. I do think PC is mostly fine though. Like there are some weirdness to it. It's not like unplayable, but like it definitely could use some work. No idea on consoles though, so go with your own risk there. Yeah, that's Mafia. It's a 6 out of 10. Probably the most 6 out of 10 game I've played in a minute, I think.
My one contribution to the end of that conversation is that a walk and talk on horses should be called a canter and banter.
Good.
I like that.
Good. Yeah.
2K, get in touch with this man.
Well, next up, I'm gonna take the reins, so to speak, keeping on the horse theme, and talk about. I went to Gen Con, which I had never been to before. Honestly, I hadn't even heard of until a few years ago, which is a big board game and tabletop convention in Indianapolis. And I live in Dayton, Ohio, and so I learned that it was a thing, and I was like, oh, I can just drive there. I don't need to, like, approve travel or hotel or anything. Like, I can just go for a few days and see what it is. So I did that. And I don't know if either of you have ever been to Gen Con or, like, a similar large convention. But the thing I didn't realize... So I've been to, like, local conventions and stuff before. There's one Super Cincy Expo, which is like a local gaming convention. They've invited me to. I think it's only existed 2 years, and I've been both years. But that's just, you walk in and there's a bunch of booths and people are selling, their merch or they're showing off pictures of, I don't know, there aren't like game developers there usually, but like
3D
they'll have tournaments and
everywhere.
What'd you say?
3D printed dragons everywhere if it's like
yes.
local cons.
Definitely. 3D printed dragons, 3D printed eggs.
Everything.
Everything. And yeah, there's like meet and greets, there's, fighting game tournaments or whatever. Gen Con has kind of what I was expecting, where it's like there's, like hundreds of booths of all these different like board game publishers and developers that are like, we make Wingspan, we make Everdell, we make, Magic the Gathering, obviously, Wizards of the Coast was there in a big presence. All sorts of stuff like that. But the thing I didn't know about Gen Con is it has like thousands and thousands of events you sign up for. So there's people that have, panels and seminars of like, D&D people that stream playing D&D. They'll do a live show there or other related things. There's board game designers will talk about their thing. And then there's also just so many places you can sign up to just play board games. So if there's a thing where it's like, oh, I wanted to play this game and no one will ever play it with me, you can go to Gen Con and just sign up for a table and then just sit at the table and then play with people. And it works for stuff where it's like a game you haven't bought, a game you can't find people for, a game like, D&D where you're like, I don't want to write my own thing and none of us want to DM, but we can just go to the convention and we can all play at a table together. So it was really cool. And the first day I went, I had an appointment. I saw a panel, and it was Eric Lang, who is a guy I didn't really know. He did a game called Blood Rager, which I think is his most well-known thing. I don't know. All right, well, first of all, let me back up real quick. Are either you guys like board game people? I don't know if that's...
Yes. I'm a board game.
I'm a card game person, not a board game person.
Mm-hmm. Well represented here.
Yeah,
Wes, do you have like favorite board games off the top of your head?
I really like Cyberpunk 2077, Gangs of Night City. Although that one's kind of hard to wrestle people to play together for because it's like a campaign-focused tabletop game. The Bloodborne TTRPG is really good. And then for like more casual things like photosynthesis, Wingspan obviously is a classic. Splendor. Pretty much like a lot of those. Like I have a friend and he comes over once a month and we just pick like 5 or 6 random board games we have and play for hours and it's great.
Nice.
Even Villainous, like we play a lot of Villainous because they just keep putting out infinite sets of that game. Jesus Christ.
They have a new one. I don't know if you know about it, Wes, but it is it's Davy Jones.
My friend that I play with literally today went and bought it and sent me a picture. It's Davy Jones funny. And Krakatoa from Moana. So the two
Tamatoa.
crab guys. Tamatoa. Which is awesome. Very cool. I like that. Those two are the ones in the set.
Very West themed.
But yeah, so I love board games rule. Board games are great.
Cool. So I was gonna say I went to a panel and it was one guy that did that. Elizabeth Hargrave, who's the designer of Wingspan. So I was like very excited to see her. And then also Joe Manganiello, who is like a actual big actor guy, but also
Deathstroke.
Like Deathstroke in the Snyder Cut.
End credit scene of something.
He's Flash Thompson in 2002's Spider-Man.
Sofia Vergara's ex-husband.
Ex-husband, yes. I did post a picture with him, and a lot of people were like, "Whoa, you met Sofia Vergara's husband?" And I was like, "I got news for you." Anyways, so it was a panel with the 3 of them. It was kind of an awkward panel because Eric, the guy, didn't know. Super nice, super fine. Would jump on questions and talk for a long time about them. Elizabeth didn't get as much time to say stuff, and it's a thing where I wish that the panel host had kind of like probed her a little bit, or trying to get her to open up or make her more comfortable about the whole thing. And then there's like an interesting thing with Joe where he would say stuff, and I hear that he's like celebrity and then also board game person, and I'm like, that's fine. Those two things can coexist. I'm totally cool talking to you about the board game stuff. And it was a funny thing where anytime he would mention like doing Magic Mike, it would get like an enormous uproar of laughter from the crowd. And it wasn't like they were making fun of him or like a thing. He kind of played it for comedic effect, where he's like, no one would thought the guy from Magic Mike would be into this stuff. And to me, it was a thing where I was like, I feel like we're still... Like, I'm past that. I get it. Those two things can exist. I want to, like, hear what he thinks about games, and instead it kept being,
people
like...
do play board games.
Yes, exactly.
He has
like,
a bit,
obviously.
but he's, like, playing the bit a little too often. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think he knows, like, to be honest, and I'm, like, psychoanalyzing him. I don't know him as a person, so this is not a thing. I kind of read a level of, kind of an insecurity of him, of being, like... Because you know, nerd culture is famously, like, gatekeepy. So I do think there is a thing of, like, well, you want to come and, like, play that you're a real nerd like us, but, like, we're the real nerds that did this and do all this stuff all the time. You're off at your big Hollywood parties. And I feel like, I don't know if he thinks he's perceived that way, or he has been told that he's perceived that way. But I don't know, I kind of picked that up from him. But I got 2 autographs from Elizabeth Hargrave, which was very exciting. And then after that, I went and I played Hero Quest with Joe Manganiello, because he wrote an expansion to the game. Hero Quest is not a game I had played before, and I was embarrassed about that, but then found out no one at the table had played Hero Quest,
perfect.
So I felt a lot better. And it's like a dungeon crawler, and it comes with like a big board and these like preset scenarios, and basically every time you open a door, like on this big grid of board, the person that's behind like the DM screen, which is what Joe is doing, they'll like place down the items, or like, okay, this is a hallway and these are the doors on either side of the hallway, or like, this is what's in this room. It's like a, you know, alchemist shop or whatever. So it's like an interesting dungeon crawling, exploring type thing. And I honestly I'm not a judge for whether it was a really good expansion or not, because it was literally my first ever exposure to the game, but we did have fun and we liked it.
Did it take place in Las Vegas, and like behind this door was a scantily clad man with great abs?
It took place in a tavern, and he introduced a bunch of people. Again, he wrote, it's like called Joe Manganiello's Crypt of Perpetual Darkness, I think is the title. And he kept introducing people that had Philadelphia accents, which I assume is because he's from Philadelphia.
Hell yeah.
I was like kind of role playing as my character, but I had chose a voice that was very similar to mine, and he kept committing to voices no one else at the table was. I was like, man, I should have really gone for it, because I don't want him to feel left out, and just my
that's tough.
Every time he put a goblin down on the board, he went, ah! He would talk in his completely normal voice. He never did a goblin voice, but anytime he placed a goblin down, as if it was like a soundboard effect, he'd go like, ah! And I thought that was
You
fun.
kind of have to. I think if you're like putting down a funky little goblin guy, you have to make like a noise with it. It's like when the thing, like you put a pair of tongs out and you tell someone to pick them up, and they always give them a little like click, click, click.
Click it.
Yeah. You have to.
You have to. I was like, I could tell it was a thing where it's like, if I called him out on it, I think he would not realize he was doing it every single time.
Lizard brain.
And also
sound.
he also had a little tiny chihuahua named Bubbles with him, which was very nice. Bubbles was
that
just
rules.
limply sitting on his lap the whole time. Great dog.
He's like really big into D&D, right? Like that's his main thing. Like he spends a lot of money on his basement and invites celebrities like Vin Diesel over, and they play celebrity D&D often.
I don't know how often he plays with like celebrities specifically, but I do know that's like a whole thing with him. And he's like, there's a D&D setting, Dragonlance, and he's adapting Dragonlance into a TV series, and he was talking about how he's like doing that right now. It was funny in the panel hearing all the board game designers talk about their inspirations. and he was like, yeah, you know, I grew up and I playing D&D and Hero Quest and all these like epic fantasy stories, and I just really liked this part of my life and these things I was doing, and that's why I wanted to make games. And Elizabeth Hargrave, who if you don't know Wingspan, it's a game about birds and has a lot of like really specific bird art, and they all have like bird facts on them, and it's a thing that was like got really popular around the pandemic because it was a board game. All of a sudden, everyone's stuck inside playing board games. That people that didn't play strategy games or intense board games would be like, oh, I like birds. Or like a grandma would be like, oh, this is interesting. I'll learn the rules of this. It's all birds. Her inspiration for starting was, I was so sick of every game was D&D. Every game was like castles and goblins and swords and stuff. Which Gen Con's got room for both of them.
Yeah, it's fair.
So that was my Thursday. I worked on Friday, and then I went back on Saturday. And that day, so it takes place in the Indiana Convention Center, real big convention center, obviously. It has like a lobby that kind of like wraps around the main halls, and then the halls are like this huge, I think it was like a big L-shaped, or maybe even like C-shaped, like combined thing of all these halls of places to go. But it's connected with an underground tunnel to Lucas Oil Stadium, which is the stadium where the Colts play, the NFL team.
Yeah.
It's an indoor stadium, and because of that, during the summer when the Colts aren't playing, they use it for like conventions and stuff. So I went through this underground tunnel, came out in Lucas Oil Stadium, and the fields are just covered in tables of people playing like Magic the Gathering. This was mostly where the Magic stuff was.
Yeah,
That's where the magic
awesome.
happens.
True. There you go. I had a joke. I can't remember if it made it into my Gen Con piece in the magazine or not, but I was laughing that like one of these guys be like, yeah, I've competed on an NFL field before. I've actually won a few games. It was like, wow. Not knowing they're talking about Magic.
Yeah.
Anyways, from there I went into, they have like these a bunch of like meeting rooms and suites in the stadium. And I went into this like super fancy decorated room, and I played the new starter set for Dungeons and Dragons, which is called Heroes of the Borderlands. And I'm a big D&D guy. I keep trying to figure a way to get all my D&D books on this shelf behind me, but I can't make the shelves tall enough to fit the books. But I have them all on this other side of me. So I was interested to play this. I like the 2024 rules. It's kind of controversial online, but I was interested to see what this is. And it's like, well, quick pause break. Do either of you guys play D&D? I think, Eric, we've talked about D&D before.
I have looked into the idea of like DMing before because I think it would be fun. It would be enjoyable. And I also learned that the fastest way to get your friends to play a tabletop game is to DM the tabletop game, because that's
very true.
It's like playing Jungle in League of Legends. You know, somebody's got to do it, and usually you have to be the one to do it.
I don't know what we're talking about here with this League of Legends stuff.
Yeah, this is a quick pivot here. No, it's cool. I own a lot of books, and I like a lot of writing around it and about it. But I have yet to do more than play like a one shot, just because turns out the greatest challenge in D&D is getting people together on a regular schedule to play it.
This is true.
Literally impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible. I love D&D. I play it not as often as I'd like to, just because I have friends that keep moving away to different states, and virtual D&D doesn't hit the same as in person.
Yeah, it's
although
not
I
the
probably
same.
just need to get over that. But yeah, I love D&D and have been playing it for years.
Cool. Yeah, I actually haven't played in. The last time I played D&D was for over at MinMax. They've got a podcast, Pew Pew Bang, and for their big season finale, I ran a D&D game for them. That's the last time I played, and that was like a month or two ago. I used to play very regularly, but then I moved an hour north of my friends, and now it's just way harder for us to get together for a group. But
we should do a Game Informer one, because we also have Matt Miller, who is like,
yeah,
I want him to DM, and I just want to see what that's like.
I'm so curious to see him.
Like, he's
DM,
been playing
honestly.
for like decades, and he loves D&D.
Matt told me he wrote a D&D campaign setting for fun. He wrote and like
that's deep.
just like for his friends wrote a setting for it, like a continent of like this world for their next campaign, over like a series of months. I think he told me Rachel at Game Informer, she's the one that like laid it out for him to make sure it looked okay. And then had it like printed out and bound, handed it to his players before they started the campaign, so they could like learn about the lore of the world, and then they like ran that campaign for several years.
That rules.
That's so sick. Like, I want to get into that part of Matt Miller's mind. He's such a nice, chill, professional boss. Even when like we're having a complete wreck at work about something, he's still so calm-headed. I want to hear his little goblin noises, you know?
The Matt Miller goblin noises.
Yeah. Like,
I actually really am fascinated to know what Matt's goblin noise was. This is going to be the next meeting we have. That's going to be the first
Next
question I ask.
stand-up,
Is,
yeah.
Matt, can you make a goblin noise? Well, anyways, Heroes of the Borderlands is a really interesting starter set. If you haven't played D&D, there are books that like have the rules of D&D, and you can print out character sheets and write stuff on that. But they do sell like boxes. Like if you go to Target, you can get a box that's like a starter set and an essentials kit, which is basically just like a smaller version of the rules, some pre-made characters if you want to use them, and then like a little adventure so you guys can play a few sessions. It's got dice, it's got everything you need to get started. And if you feel like graduating, writing your own stuff, or like getting a more proper campaign setting or something, you can get some of the other books. Heroes of the Borderlands is one step even further than this like easy access thing, because they give you like physical boards, like the way we mentioned Wingspan before. But there's a lot of board games where like to start the game you'll have like a I don't know what the material is, but like a laminated cardboard board where it's like, this is my pieces where my things are going to go. It has like your stats and your character pre-made. And then there's little slots for like equipment and spells, and you have like playing cards that you put in those spots to be like, I've equipped a mace, and you'll put it there, and it says this mace does this much damage plus whatever thing. So it like streamlines it so much that they're always like, yeah, you can pick this game up and start playing within 5 minutes, and that's always like,
sure,
that's not true because no one's gonna understand it. This is like
I does homework for an hour before.
Exactly, our minimum. This is genuinely something where you could take people that haven't played D&D, and 15 minutes after you sat down, you guys can start the experience of it. Probably assuming one of you's played before, though the rules do have instructions for new DMs. And they specifically, I was playing with Justice Raman Armon, I think is his name. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but he's one of the like managing game designers over at Wizards of the Coast on D&D, and he helped to design the set. And he said that the way they wrote the book, they were trying to emphasize that the DMs and the characters are all players. It's not players and DMs. They're trying to say it's all that. And they actually wanted people to trade the Dungeon Master role around the table for this. Cool. They're like specifically very like piecemeal quests and stuff like that. So I played it with this D&D influencer named Sean, who I think known online is Crit Hit the Giant, I want to say his name. And the PR person invited my partner because he knew that she was going to be there, and she decided not to do it at the end because she saw a stand that was selling a Froggy fanny pack.
Let's go.
And she was like,
Game
I actually
over.
have to do that. I left her alone for an hour and came back, and she had a Froggy bucket hat, a Froggy fanny pack, and had already gone back to the car to drop off a bunch of other stuff she bought. As is her right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good for her.
I'll say it. I love her even though she's not Italian, you know?
Italian
anyways.
women, froggy women, we're not... We can open up our walls some.
Yeah. No, don't even show me a picture of an Italian frog woman because I'm not even going to know what to do with myself. Wes, do you know how to say frog in Italian? Are you thinking? Did you hear me?
Oh, sorry. No, I muted because I had to cough because of COVID because I laughed too much.
I said, do you know how to say frog in Italian?
Oh my God, no, I don't actually. I know a lot of other animals, but not frog.
Okay.
It's probably...
I need you to find out, and you don't have to do this right now, but just for future purposes, 1, how you say frog in Italian, and 2, what they say that a frog makes, the sound that it makes. Because always like animal sounds are different in other things. Anyways, my partner didn't come, but I didn't realize that they had like an empty seat basically that she was going to fill. She was just going to watch, but she could have played. So it was me, it was this influencer Sean, and then Sean's kid Riley. And Riley's like, 11. You know, that age where you're like, you could be 8 or you could be 12, and I can't really place it just because people mature at different rates. So I played like an hour of D&D with Sean and his kid, and it was very delightful. And Riley, the kid, for the record, I was like, oh, this is so perfect, because I can see how like a kid who's never played D&D or doesn't know that well might be able to adapt it. Riley was like such a pro. Like, I already knew everything. I think they picked playing a rogue because it was just the one class they hadn't played before. They showed us a picture, or they told us about it, and I found it on Instagram later. The two of them have a picture like with Matt Mercer, because they had gone to like a meet and greet a year earlier or something like that. So very funny. But yeah, and it was accessible. We found a secret door, and behind that secret door there was a young dragon, and we were all level 1, and it was like, give us your gold, and Riley was like, I'd rather die, and the dragon was like, okay, and then we would have for sure died if we hadn't run out of time. But I was like, that's D&D, man.
Who can say? Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, that's what I was like.
Probably did survive.
There could have been a lot of 20s and a lot of 1s after that. You know what I'm saying? But, anyways, yeah. So it was fun. I think it's a interesting idea. I'm really curious of like how it'll be received, because it's one of those things where I'm kind of like hopelessly D&D pilled at this point. Like, I don't think there's a lot that would happen that would make me stop playing the game just because I have all the books and stuff already that I would need. Like, I'm not buying every new book when it comes out, but I don't need to be convinced to like the game at all. And I'm curious if I brought this to like my dad or something, and I'm like, this isn't overwhelming. There's just these boards and these tokens and these cards, and it'll all make sense as we go along. I'm curious as how it'll go.
It's interesting to think about, because D&D did have that explosion, right? The combination of actual plays, crit rolls, stuff like that, alongside Stranger Things is kind of the one to point to, of like D&D being in pop culture mainstream again. It did have a giant explosion. Now it's very mainstream. A lot of people play it casually, play it with their friends who normally you might not expect to. At the same time, I do always then wonder, are these tools actually getting people in, or is it the people getting people in? And like, what is facilitating what here? Is it always that you need a good format to get people in, or do you need good tools for other people to get other people in? I think that's what changed for me with Magic, and why I'm suddenly like crazy down the Magic rabbit hole, is because I've played Magic before. I played Duels of the Planeswalker on 360. I played Bloomburrow back when that came out because I like the set a lot. But what got me to stick this time was having a commander pod that I like meet up with regularly, and having people that I play with online, and having actual reason to play with the cards I have and play the game Magic, versus just experience it as a collecting thing that I sometimes play on an app every once in a while. And that kind of like unlocked in my head that it really is about having that setting around you that I think is conducive to getting people to join in, not just making the game itself super approachable. Commander and stuff like that in Magic has also made that game super approachable and sociable in a way that's fresh and interesting too. But it's interesting to see these hobbies kind of adapt as they grow in popularity.
Yeah. It is cool to see them make moves like this, but ultimately I think with D&D and Magic, like, it really is, and similar games, like the people you're playing with are everything, especially like for D&D. Like, if one person is not like vibing or is kind of like messing up the vibes, like, it can really take down the whole party. Like, it needs to be a pretty cohesive unit. And I've always found that, like, that kind of stuff, it just, for all the tools, for all the features, for all the D&D Beyond things you can do to make D&D easier, like, none of it works unless you have a party who is like active and buying into it. So I am curious to see if like this type of board game approach works, because like ultimately you still have to go to a board game shop, and like that's like a big step for a lot of people out there. Like, stepping into like a card shop or a board game shop is like a crazy experience when you walk in, and if you're not into that community, it's like, oh, whoa, this is like, something's going on here.
They like ask you if you're looking for something specific in a way that like another store wouldn't bother doing that, where it's like you often come to a board game or a card game shop of like, oh, I'm here for this game or this specific thing.
I think a lot about when I was playing fighting games a little bit more competitively than I do right now. It would be that feeling of walking into a tournament for the first time, or walking into a weekly for the first time, and everybody's setting up. Maybe they're playing casuals, they're warming up and stuff like that, and you're like, I don't know anyone here. I don't know what the vibes are. Here? I don't want to like disrupt the vibes, you know? And so you kind of just like try to figure some stuff out. Maybe you look for somebody else who looks similarly lost and you find companionship there, but that really depends on... You have to
punch through the record scratch moment, because when you open the door, everyone's like turns and looks who's walking in, and you have to be like, okay, they're just looking because the door opened. They don't hate me.
I've
done weeklies for 2 games. I've done weeklies for Smash back when Ultimate came out, and that was the experience of walking in and being like, there's a giant thriving community here that I'm trying to enter into and play against, full of a lot of personalities, let me tell you what. And then I played Soul Calibur, and Soul Calibur was like, there's not a lot of people here and they all know each other super well and they've been playing together for ages, and I'm just walking up like, hey.
Which one and when were you playing?
This was 6, when 6 first came out, and I was playing, I forgot his name now, I feel bad because I think Ro was his name, with the dual swords that could kind of do the stance changing and stuff like that. And I got pretty decent at him and could do a lot of the combos and change ups and stuff like that, and it even won a few games, but it was still that feeling of like, it was a really small community and you still feel very alien at times, and it can be hard to find that. And I think when you do find that with a game, you end up latching to it because it is a different feeling altogether. Like having a group to play Commander with regularly in Magic is huge, because now you have not just a game to play, but people to play against. I've already started like crafting decks in my mind that are like, this will beat that. This one person keeps running Chatterfang squirrel tokens on me, and I'm sick of it. So I'm going to design a deck to destroy this. And that gets really interesting, but you have to overcome that initial hump. And that's not easy for everybody to just walk into a place and try and insert themselves. I mean, we're all fairly personable people. We're on a podcast, for God's sake. And still we might walk into a room and be like...
That's the bar. For personable is having a podcast.
We'll talk about our opinions online for people down below to yell at us about.
Sure.
And still, like, you can walk into a place and feel unsure about what the vibes are and stuff. I think that's the biggest hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
There you go. Yeah, I think also there's a I don't know. She like knows a professor that I had in college, but there's a online figure, Dr. Friedman, and she writes a lot about tabletop games and stuff. And she recently, I think, was commenting on, I want to say it was an NPR piece that was kind of about Dungeons and Dragons, and she was kind of pointing out some, like, not like tearing to shreds, but kind of pointing out some inconsistencies in like the conclusions it was making. And one of it is a lot of what you were saying, where it's like, yes, Dungeons & Dragons is doing really well, but Dungeons & Dragons didn't sell out Madison Square Garden. Dimension 20 sold out Madison Square Garden. Yeah. And it's like that, the game is good and people have liked the game, but it has a lot to do with those performers and like the stuff that they bring to it. That's very interesting. I think, too, Heroes of the Borderlands credit and why this specifically makes me more curious than a lot of other stuff, because like the D&D 2024 rules, I do think simplified things and made it... I find it easier to make a character with those rules than the 2014 rules. I think the thing that this does is more of a reach out towards confused people than I feel like they've done before, where it's not just like we've made your character sheet already, you can look at it. It's like we've redesigned the character sheet. We've made these things like physical pieces you can hold.
It sounds like it makes it a more tangible thing. I think that's one of the barriers that D&D has, is like it does require, I mean, unless you've got a lot of money and a lot of sets and minifigs, but like there is a level of imagination there that can be uncomfortable as adults because we don't really practice that every day. So I think board gaming it up a little bit, where it's like, oh, I'm holding this piece and I'm moving this here and there. Like, I think that sounds like a smart move for D&D.
Yeah, it also comes with like maps for all the areas you go to, and you have like little standees for each of like the races that you can pick or their species now. But yeah, no, I think it's all an interesting conversation and a matter of like, is it D&D? Is it tabletop games? Is it Matt Mercer or Brendan Lee Mulligan, or is it just the idea that you can be them?
Up now for a massive
campaign that was wild. October? That was another thing at Gen Con I didn't get to go to. Was that at
Gen Con?
Yeah, they had a live show at Gen Con, and then Matt Mercer came out and was talking about Daggerheart. And sorry if you came to this podcast just for video games. We're getting real deep in the world of TTRPGs right now. But Daggerheart is a competitor to D&D created by the people that made Critical Role. Mm-hmm. They have their own game publishing arm now, and they've made a D&D-like game that has a little bit lighter rules, different rule set, has physical cards for all your abilities, just as long as we're talking about like tangible things. That's one of the things I like a lot about the game. And then two of the head designers of 5th edition left Dungeons & Dragons and are now working for Daggerheart. And in this big show, like, Matt Mercer came out, he's talking about the future of Critical Role, and then these two guys came out, like, on the stage with him months after they started there as, like, a show of... I mean, they were both wearing one shirt. They were collectively wearing one shirt, the two of them, as a bit about... They were all trying to be Steve Jobs, so they all had different turtlenecks. Mm-hmm. Anyways... yes, and now Brendan Lee Mulligan, who's the DM of Dimension 20, is going to DM Campaign 4 of Critical Role, which is big news. And that's the kind of thing that...
Which is also crazy, because he's always the DM.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. That's the kind of thing that if I had learned about Gen Con even earlier in the year, if I had thought to do it, then I could have gotten tickets to stuff like that. But that is one interesting thing about the event, that it's like... There's stuff to do if you don't have appointments and you haven't signed up to play games, but kind of the heart of it is in these are the the board game celebrities you can see and the anyways. So
also that was my thing, just because I'm very excited about the Critical Role Season 4. It's not set in Exandria, which is Matt Mercer's like own little setting he created in D&D, but it's a whole new world, whole new setting that I presume Brendan has created, which is really cool. So like if you've ever been like, I want to get into Critical Role, I do think Season 4, I mean, you can watch all of them, they're all great, but Season 4 seems like it's going to be a legitimately completely standalone, like new fresh start. And Brendan is, Matt Mercer's an incredible DM, but like secretly Brendan might actually be the best DM out there. Dude's
That's
insane.
My take is Brendan spoiled me for basically every other DM.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge actual play person. I'll sometimes put them on to like fall asleep too, because they have a pretty even volume.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's like a weird thing that I'm sure some random people in the comments probably identify with, and everybody else is like, you're crazy. But when I got eye surgery a while back, I had to basically lie in a room to heal and recover, like in a dark room with no screens for a couple days. And I ended up listening to Dimension 20, they're like high school one where they're all at the D&D
Fantasy High.
Yes.
Yeah.
I listened to the first season of that because, you know, that worked. I didn't have to like see it to understand what was going on. I could hear it all and it worked. And let me tell you, that's a good time. That's a real good time. Yeah. If you ever get eye surgery and have to lie in a dark room for a couple days, that's my recommendation to you.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, even the easier approachable thing from that is Brennan DM'd a like prequel spin-off mini series for Critical Role that's like 4 or 6 episodes or something. Yeah. So if you just want a taste of what he will be like on Critical Role, that's a good example of it. And then
that he's gonna be DMing and Matt will be one of the characters, like that is, I cannot wait. It's gonna be so awesome.
My last shout out is Brennan has a podcast with Lou Wilson and Erica Ishii, who's the ghost of Yote, and Abria Iyengar, called Worlds Beyond Number. That is my pinnacle of D&D show. And they're almost done with their like big first season, which is very cool. And you should watch that too. Cool. Okay, let's move on past tabletop games. If you are sick of that, then good. Or not good. Good for you because it's done now. We'll go back to Italian women or whatever we're talking about.
We're a game informer. We are not video game
That's true.
informer.
That's
exactly.
We're talking games here. Like, get informed, people.
We'll talk about
Yeah, we are
Sudoku
informing
now. Who wants to talk
Italian
about
informer, like
Yeah.
Sudoku informer. We can do it all.
It was funny to be at Gen Con and there's like a big Wingspan booth and a big like Clank booth and all these board games I know, and then also like a big Uno stand. I'm like, oh yeah,
Oh,
Uno.
let's go.
Yeah, Mattel represent Uno.
What's
Yahtzee?
phase 10? Is that what are they up to? What are they doing? Block has got a booth there.
They're on 20 now, phase 20, I think.
Phase 20. That's crazy.
Wow.
That's so many phases.
Anyways, Wes, you reviewed some games recently. You reviewed Wheel World and Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. I'll let you pick which one you want to talk about first.
I'll probably start with Ragebound just because I know Marcus talked a lot about it last week, and I'll just kind of ducktail and finish that convo. Yeah, the past 4 weeks for me, I realized I've published a review every week for 4 weeks now, and I've been exploring the scale here at GI. I published an 8, then a 5, then a 9.5, and now a 6, and I'm currently working on my 5th review. I don't know where that'll land, but it's been fun opening up our review scale and going up and down it. Ragebound is probably my top 3 games of the year. It's just fantastic for all the reasons Marcus said, and he hadn't even gotten to the real meat yet, which is when you fully unlock both characters to use at all times. And yeah, they are kind of like a Nail and Piccolo situation, I believe, is what I remember being referenced last week. Shout out to Nail. That happens, and then I think he shows up. You hear about Nail one more time near the end of Z, and then you're like, oh yeah, that guy exists, and that's it.
A real MVP, an unsung hero of the series.
Truly. But yeah, Ragebound, for everything Marcus said about the first 2 acts he had played, like the rest of the game, it only gets better. It gets good. It just keeps ascending to new heights. I adored Ragebound. It is a hard, awesome, fast platformer with awesome combat. And it does a really cool thing that he's kind of mentioned where, like, it becomes a rhythm game because certain enemies need to be hit. Like, if they're pink, they need to be hit with the girl's ranged weapon. If they are blue, they need to be hit by the guy's melee attack. And as you continue through the game, that just builds up to where you're like, pink, blue, boom, killing this, blah, blah, blah. And it just goes crazy, and it really tests your limits on a controller, which I think is kind of Ninja Gaiden's original appeal. Although I do think Ragebound is probably easier than every other Ninja Gaiden game out there, which is great. I just can't sing the praises of the Game Kitchen's work enough. Like, I mean, Blasphemous games are great. I love that they didn't make this a Metroidvania because I'm sure they would have crushed that, but I think that Ragebound works better as like a retro throwback platformer. And yeah, I gave it a 9.5. I don't really have any issues. For me, I haven't given it 10 yet, and I'm kind of just maybe waiting forever for the game that just screams 10 at me because I feel like it will, and who knows, but 9.5 is like one of my highest scores. I was very happy to give that game a 9.5. It truly rules, and I think it's like, I don't even know, I think it's like $20, maybe even less.
Oh wow, yeah,
it's a good little appetizer for Ninja Gaiden 4, which is later this year, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is a must-play, in my opinion. If you like platformers, if you like retro gaming, if you like beautiful pixel art, if you like the Blasphemous games, give it a go. And some people beat it in like 4 to 5 hours. I beat it in like 12. I kind of went sicko mode on it and tried to get like S rank on everything and find every collectible. So if you want a meaty little platformer, that's there. But if you don't, you can just main path it in 3 to 4 hours, apparently, which I know is like a big appeal for people.
What did you play it on? Because I would be curious to know if there's a particular like platform preference for this sort of thing.
I played it on PC. Also, if you hear my daughter in the back, she's okay. She's just testing out her vocal cords.
Okay.
I played it on PC, primarily on Steam Deck. Runs like a dream. It's perfect there. It's perfect on PC. I've heard and read that it's good on consoles as well, except with the exception of Switch 2 and Switch. It's just a Switch 1 game. And it was capped at 30 FPS, which is kind of a bummer, in my opinion, especially when it's not capped at 30 FPS elsewhere. So, like, I'd probably recommend it anywhere else. But again, I know it's, Switch is really nice to carry and hold around. So if you're fine with 30 FPS, like, yeah, go for it. It's not the game. It's not broken. It's just capped at 30, and that's kind of a huge bummer for me after playing on Steam Deck and PC. But yeah, it's an excellent Steam Deck game. It's not like one of those ones that feels weird holding that gargantuan brick. It feels at home there. But yeah, that's Ragebound. I mean, I just kind of wanted to tailcoat off of Marcus's thoughts and just say, like, the first half of the game he's loving. I suspect if he hasn't already, he's going to really love the second half, and I would highly recommend that game to pretty much anyone out there.
Oh, there you go. Was it
Wheel World? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, just in terms of the difficulty, do you think it's like hard enough that it'll be off-putting for some people? Like, is it like I don't know, not to compare everything to Dark Souls, but is it like a Dark Souls where it's like it's really hard and that's the point to frustrate you, or is it like
No, it's challenging but not like brutally hard, and there's really good accessibility options to like make things easier. Or slow down timings, or change visuals and stuff to make windows easier to see and stuff. Like, you can make this game as easy or as hard as you want, and I think the baseline difficulty, like the normal difficulty, is really good. It's going to challenge you, but it's not going to like break you. And you can also, like, some of the options include like you don't take damage, so you can enjoy the platforming and fun and not worry about like dying. It's got a lot of cool options like that.
I really like when companies get like real intense and specific with accessibility ones like that. I always mention a game called Ikenfell that came out in like 2019. I don't remember exactly the year, but they had a thing where when they were developing the game, they created a button that just let you skip combat encounters because they were trying to just make sure it worked out. And then they're like, hey, why don't we just put this in the menu? If someone they just want to play the game and don't want to fight people, we might as well just have a skip combat encounters button. It's like, yeah, why not? Why not let people do whatever they want? Why the era of cheat codes is over. Just put it in the menu. Let me toggle big heads,
South of Midnight did that too. You can completely skip every combat encounter.
What a game.
Lovely game. But that actually might, if I reviewed it, I wouldn't give it like a game of the year score, but like, since I didn't have to review it, I can just be like, I think that's my game of the year because I loved.
That's amazing.
I can just ignore the parts that are bad and be like, the Cajun culture, they nailed it. Love it. Perfect. Yeah. Excellent game. Shout out South of Midnight. A game I cannot recommend highly compared to Ragebound is unfortunately Wheel World, which is probably my biggest disappointment of the year so far, and my lowest score this year, I think. Technically, my Casting of Frank Stone review got a 5, but I played it last year, but we reviewed it in our downtime, blah, blah, blah. I gave Wheel World a 5. I really, really wanted to like this game, but it just didn't work for me. It's like a tale of two games. There's a really cool, vibey bicycle game, and then there's like a really... and then there's like a bicycle racing game in there, and I don't think it commits to either one well enough to work, and so you just have this like disparate package that is a lot of boring and clunky races, in my opinion, a pretty boring world, like basically non-existent storytelling. For example, you have to like go around and race these like legendary bikers to get these legendary parts, and there's a whole story, but like honestly it's not even it's whatever. The game doesn't commit to it much, so I'm not going to either. But like they build up these legendary bikers, and then you race them and you beat them, and they're like, oh, you beat me, good job, and that's it. And I'm like, what? This is it. Like your rival. This is like this is like if Red in Pokemon was like, good job, and then that's it. There's no build. Like it was just it was bizarre. And I didn't particularly like the races, and I never struggled in the races, and I'd be finding all these bike parts that change how my bike plays on the road or in bushes or on grassland, and it just didn't matter. I just put the best stats on my bike and go, and I never struggled in a race, and I never had a hard time fighting to get first place. Even when the game's annoying rubber banding put me way back into 8th place, it took me like not long at all to get back into first place. The only challenges I had during the races were completing bonus objectives, like finding hidden KAT, Cat is the protagonist's name, letters throughout each race. But it's one of those games where I was making my own fun, which is not fun, ultimately. That said, I like the art style. It's weird. I don't know how to describe it. It's very different, very cool. I don't want to say like very indie looking, but like I don't know. You look at it and you're like, that's a cool indie game. And the soundtrack is incredible. I really, actually, legitimately love the soundtrack a lot. It's really, really good, and probably one of my favorites of the year. But yeah, it was just not pretty much nothing worked for me. The world is pretty boring to explore. There's only three types of things you'll see on your map, and they're all the same, and they don't change. And then it does the most annoying thing in games, which, Charles, I think you're dealing with in Shadow Labyrinth, where like, oh, we're at the end. Boom, pow. Nope. A whole new thing just opened up, and now you've got to do all this. And then the narrative that happens there was just like, blah, like, what are we doing? And then I'm at the final part of the game, and it was like, oh, okay, here we go. Oh, you did it. All right, game's over. No build, like no big
Fanfare.
momentous. Yeah, nothing. It was just like, it almost felt like, I don't know. I don't want to like speculate, but I was like, what? Like, it just, is this really done? It's finished. What the heck just happened? And yeah, ultimately I gave it a 5. It was just my biggest disappointment this year. I don't really know if there's anything redeeming in it other than the soundtrack, which I will be listening to throughout the year. But again, it's another smaller, cheaper title. So like, if you want to play a biking game, there's not many out there. Sure, go for it. It'll do it. As you know, maybe you'll. I'm on the lower end of reviews, I've found. So like, there are people out there who actually really like this game and dig what it's doing, and that might be you. It just it didn't work. It felt the vibes part of the game weren't given enough attention, and the racing part of the game weren't giving enough attention, and put together, it was this package that didn't work at all for me, which is unfortunate. But you know, that's how it goes sometimes. That's Wheel World. That's how it happens in Wheel World. They say
that's life in the wheel world. Yeah.
Yeah. And the name is terrible. Ghost Bike was way cooler.
Although, we've talked about this.
Having played Wheel World, I now know why they called it Wheel World, because the Ghost Bike, the whole ghost aspect, basically non-existent. All of that is like, it's mentioned and then it's kind of there in the background. Like, I get why they changed the name. It's not a very ghostly or Ghost Bike game. But I also don't know if it's a Wheel World game. There's a lot of people that ride bikes, but they're still annoying cars that knock you to freaking 5 miles away.
Those are wheels.
That's true, actually. Those are tires, wheels.
Here's what we got to do.
We want to get into here.
We got to... no, it's okay. It's all right. Tires are wheels. There's no debate there. That's I think
tires are a subset of wheel. Yeah.
But we should rename Grand Theft Auto 6 to Wheel World. I think that's like a better name for that.
Just Florida World. Florida Wheel World, Florida.
MTV's Wheel World, Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
General question for both of you. This is either true for reviewing games or just in general. Would you rather play a boring game or a frustrating game?
Oh God, probably a boring game, because then I can at least turn on a podcast. Frustrating at my current state in life, which is with the 4-month-old at home and the never-ending schedule of being in games media. Frustrating is like, can be really frustrating sometimes. I hate when I'm like, I just want this section to be done. Whereas boring, I'll turn on music, I'll turn on a podcast. At least I'm accomplishing something for me, I think.
What about you, Eric?
I think I'd rather play frustrating right now, because boring just makes me fall asleep. Like I've actually fallen asleep while playing a video game before, because it was so boring, but like the music was also so serene and relaxing that I just kind of like dozed off.
What was
in
the
middle
game?
of playing it? It was some random RPG. I legitimately don't remember the name of it. That's how boring it was. That's not for the bid. I'm not trying to like dodge casting shade on somebody. I legitimately don't remember the name of it. I just remember like the little piano lulling me off to sleep. Which gives me a hint, I think, in my head to what it was, but that was a long time ago. But maybe it was I'm Cessna. Who's to say? But I don't know, like frustrating can be its own reward in that way.
Yeah.
And also I find something fascinating in a frustrating game. I don't think I would enjoy playing Lord of the Rings Gollum, but I think I would find it an interesting game to play because of the ways in which it is frustrating actively. Whereas boring is never going to be texturally interesting. It's just going to be wrote by the numbers, you know. And you can put on a podcast or something, but at that point I'd rather just be watching
Doing something else.
or listening to the podcast, like actively listening to the podcast than like passively. Yeah, so I think frustrating for me, but it is an interesting question.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would rather play a boring game, but I find frustrating games easier to like review and talk about, because I'm
Oh, for sure.
finally
Oh,
I
yeah.
can talk about this
yeah.
thing that's been. Wes briefly mentioned Shadow Labyrinth, which I've been trying to finish forever, and I just keep having other things on my plate, and I'm at the final area, but it's a whole thing. But one thing about that game that I don't like is there's two types of collectibles. There's yellow collectibles and there's red collectibles. And red collectibles can either be health upgrades or like super important like character upgrades, or it's map markers. It can just be more map markers. You can do a whole like challenge section and get a red collectible and then find out you have more markers for your map. Which like I was never
you have a
like
limited amount of markers for your map that you can
Yes.
place.
Which
Oh
I
my
didn't
God,
realize
that's-
until I got more. And I
That's
keep going to
horrible.
places and it's like, hey man, give us 100 gold, we'll get you some more map markers.
That's
it's like
crazy.
beat
That-
the first level of this
Yeah.
boss rush mode and you'll get some more map markers. And I'm like, why is this a reward to you?
That's
And then-
awful.
The
Who
yellow
played the game
collectibles
and
are
said that?
either a currency that I didn't figure out who I was supposed to give it to until literally like hour 35 of the game, or text logs. And it's always, that's one where it's like always not fun to get.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something like the ability to pause. Like you've gained one pause.
I made fun
on.
of the game earlier
We're
that it's
cooking
like
now.
you got to get 5 hours in and beat a boss, and then like your first big Metroidvania thing, it's like, congrats, you've unlocked the parry button. I'm like, why didn't I start with the parry button? And then after you get the parry button, you unlock the block button, and it's like you can't block
Yeah.
and parry at the same time. They're two different things. Anyways,
That's like a gaming cardinal sin to me, is when you take too long to give the player the stuff that is just the fun parts of the game. Like
we had this exact conversation when we were talking about Donkey Kong. I
Yeah.
feel so strongly about that.
Is Donkey
that's
Kong
it.
a
Donkey Kong's the
victim of that, or
perfect
does it
example.
do-
Perfect
Oh,
example
yeah,
of you
Donkey
start
Kong-
off and you can turf surf and you can jump, double jump, and like you start off and it's like, oh, I have so many things I can play with. It's just fun to exist. There's a version of Donkey Kong where you have a punch button and then eventually you do a tutorial to learn how to punch down and punch up, and it takes like 5 hours to get the like movement tech stuff.
Donkey
And I'm
Kong
like,
has to
yeah.
learn how to punch up.
Yeah, terrible.
On the
it's-
flip side, Prince of Persia: Lost Crown, you don't get the double jump. That's like one of the last things you unlock. And they did so good with the progression and the momentum of that game that like it is one of the best feelings I've ever had. So it sounds like Lost Crown is doing the opposite of Shadow Labyrinth in the
That's-
Metroidvania space.
you can
The
build
double
it,
jump is
yeah.
kind of like a whole thing in a Metroidvania specifically, where
Yeah.
it's like any platformer you want to double jump because it's just such a common movement tool. I do like, of all the abilities to withhold, I like withholding the double jump because it's something you know you're going to get and you always want, and there's something about
Yeah.
not being able to jump quite high enough that you're like, I'm going to get that. But Prince of Persia is a great example of like you do get other cool stuff before then, so it's not like you're so disappointed you never get the double jump. Shadow Labyrinth, it did take me 15 16 hours to get the double jump, and when I finally did, I was like, finally the base features of the game are complete. Now I can move on to the rest of it.
It depends if the game feels like it's been laid out and designed in that way, right? Does it feel like you are kind of getting this tool at a moment that makes it feel like it opens the game up, or does it feel like, oh, now I can play the game more comfortably? Axiom Verge, weirdly enough, is one I think of a lot, where you
yeah.
start that game as almost cumbersome, like you're just kind of plodding around and you just have a gun. It's almost very Metroidy. I mean, it is extremely Metroidy, but it gives you so many movement tech options to start to think about that by the time you start doing weird movement and weird stuff, you kind of have the mind space to start thinking about how all those things can combine together to do some really cool stuff and then hunt some secrets with that. And I think those are good examples of giving you something later on that is kind of an expected upgrade in a video game like that, but making you wait and designing worlds around it so that it feels right and timed and impactful. Whereas, yeah, I think there are other games where it's just like, why'd you wait so long to give me this, man?
Yeah.
That's the good stuff. I liked Final Fantasy 16 more than most, and I think you spend too long in that game with too limited of a skill set when it comes to the icons that you can use. Because by the time you start to unlock more than like 2 icons, maybe 2 or 3 that you start out with, then the game starts to really open up and give you some really cool stuff to work with. But up to that point, you're kind of working with a very limited skill set, and that can be frustrating because you're like, give me the cool toys. I want to play with the cool toys.
That was a
I'm
big
so
West
excited
game.
to read your review, Charles. Also, yes, I love
Oh,
Final
sure,
Fantasy
yeah.
16 as well. But your Shadow Labyrinth review is probably my most anticipated review to see. I've just seen and
cool.
heard so much of the ups and downs you've gone through. A lot of downs playing it in Slack. So like, I can't wait to.
It's
sounds
one
like
of
a
those
beast of a
things
review
where
to write.
I sat down to start drafting it, and I blew way past the 1-page limit, and now I'm like, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to do 2 versions, if I'm going to do a web version and a magazine version. Listeners, our magazine, we go based on character count, and like 1 page is like 3,600 characters, which is not that many words. Definitely less than you would normally put in a review, so it's often hard to like pare down your thoughts into something as concise as that. But when you're writing something right at the magazine deadline, it's like almost more work to write a web version and it is more work to write 2 versions of a thing versus 1 version of a thing. But
It's good practice, though. I do like that. Like, the magazine version really forces you to think about what needs to be said in this review. Sometimes I'm like, if I had 1 more paragraph, that would be awesome. Like, when I'm trimming, I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't have to trim this. But I think it's a unique thing about writing in physical that really tests your brain in a way that doesn't happen online elsewhere.
Yeah, there's a few points in my life I can pinpoint as the most relief from stress I've ever felt, and number 3 or 4 is my first week at Game Informer. I found out that it was a character count and not a word count, where I thought I had to write like 1,600 words on Path of Titans, maybe it's called. It's like a dinosaur MMO game that I didn't really have all that much of a thought about, and I was doing like a half-page preview on it, and I was like, I can't write like an essay on the like hour or 2 I played on this game. I don't want to do that. And I thought it was character counts, and I like almost cried. I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, maybe I can do this job longer.
My favorite is I won't say names, but we like freelancers. I'll help a freelancer get a piece in and pitch and stuff, and then they get it in and they're like, dog, these character counts, are you for real? And I'm like, welcome to print, man.
Yeah. That is a thing of I think it's also a coming from a school environment where it's like hit the minimum 1,000 words. And, like, you would never write 3,000 words for that thing, but you get so used to being like, I'm just going to fill as many thoughts as possible and get them out. And there's, like, definitely an art to the magazine of making it more concise.
Yeah. It forces you to talk about the game, though. And I think that's what I like is I think too often when I'm given unlimited space, I'm like, oh, well, I really need to, like, write all of this almost back-of-the-box summary of, like, this is what the game is. This is what you do. And having a character limit forces you to just talk about what you think about the game. Not, this has a gun in it, but the gun in this game is not very good, or the gun in this game is very good. Shout outs to the smart pistol. And that's that's a good thing to encourage, I think, for writers. And so I like it.
And that's why it's nice to have the podcast where it's like I can give my unabridged thoughts.
You get to yap. Yeah.
Yeah. My all-time lowest review, definitely least favorite game I played was Super Bomberman R2. Least favorite game I played for work. I've probably played worse games otherwise. But that game has like insane lore where it turns out that like these little cute guys have been committing suicide for you on like you get to never mind.
Oh, wow.
It's a level of weirdness and annoyingness that I'm like, I don't have the word count to explain it in a written review, so I was glad I got to come on here and they gave me like a minute timer to just word vomit how much I was baffled by the weird lore of this game. Whereas like the average person is like, I just want to know if it's fun. Like I don't really need to get, I don't need, 20,000 characters on the ins and outs of the Bomberman lore as you've now become familiar with it. But
that's a good segment idea. It's just here's a minute to vent about something in a game you've been playing.
That's actually great.
Keep that in the back pocket.
My favorite thing about Super Bomberman R2 is I explained it. It's like an open world Bomberman game, and Matt Miller, having not played it, I don't think he ever played it. I don't know if he ever said a thing about it other than this, but he was like, "That's like making open world tennis." I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's genius! What a bar! That's got to be the." I don't think I put it in my review, but I was like,
classic Matt.
"That's so good."
Bars.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of the Game Informer Show. As always, you can subscribe to Game Informer Magazine at GameInformer.com/subscribe. We're working real hard on our most recent issue, or our upcoming issue rather, hoping that all our scheduling stuff works out, but we are excited about it, so that'll be fun.
Yes.
I don't know your guys' social handles off the top of my head. I'm
Charles,
everywhere as it's a testament to friendship. I'm everywhere as Chuck Duck 365. Wes, where can people find you?
Mostly Blue Sky. I'm just Wesley LeBlanc there. And then on Instagram, I am annoyingly I_am_Wesley_. I've been trying to be more active there and like posting about my work and travels because I like to travel and do a lot of it and take pictures. And I'm also trying to make TikTok a thing, which I've
been seeing those
7 on TikTok. I'll talk about my China trip that I returned from in a later episode one day. I have a lot to say, and it was an awesome trip. But I was there with a lot of people. Like it was the biggest event I've ever been to. At one point, like 2,000 people. China shows up, and a lot of them were influencers. And to be frank, just hearing some of the numbers they're throwing around, I was like, I gotta get on TikTok. I gotta start making. I gotta make my life content, and it's a struggle. It's not easy, and it's kind of embarrassing. And but it helped. Like filming in public is really hard, but seeing these people are like professionals at it. Like they have no problem whipping out their phones and just doing whatever. And I was like inspired. So I'm really trying to give it a good go. We'll see if that continues, but if you want to join me there in the cringe and in the work travels and whatever else I post, it's Wesley LeBlanc 7.
And Eric?
C Moosey on old B Sky is about the only place I'm on these days. I'm trying to disconnect myself from social media as much as possible.
Smart.
So
yeah.
I've got stuff for friends and family to get signs of life every now and then. But I especially when the great exodus happened and all that, I was like, it's probably a good time for me to just take a break from a lot of social media.
Yeah.
It was
Should we have connected?
Yeah, we have connected. Kojima was so right for that. And so I've been doing it less, but B Sky is where you'll find me most of the time. So when I decide to post random thoughts that enter my head.
Well, there you go. And if you want someone that's gonna post consistently, you can find GameInformer.com on Blue Sky, Game Informer Magazine on Instagram. And you can just search Game Informer anywhere, and we'll probably pop up. Before we go, Wes, did you find out frog in Italian?
Yeah, frog in Italian is razza. No, rana. But, babe, do you know what frogs sound like in Italy? Like the noise that you would do?
I don't, but I know frogs.
They ribbit in Italian?
Did she say something?
She said that she just knows it's rana, but doesn't.
Definitely not ribbit.
She says she knows it's rana in Italian, like that's the word for frog, and she's positive they do not do ribbit. Like if you're a kid in Italy doing a frog noise, you don't do a ribbit.
You don't do ribbit.
Yeah.
Well, this week, instead of looking it up,
her mom to find out.
Oh, okay.
This
Stay
week,
tuned.
after watching the podcast, instead of looking it up, you guys can imagine whatever you want Italian frogs to say. Personally, I think they go rubato.
Oh, hold on, we might. Yeah.
It's cra, cra, cra.
It's cra.
Ooh, kra. Well,
okay.
kra kra.
Shout out Italian women. Shout out Italian frogs. Shout
There
out
we
Italian,
go.
Shout out women that like frogs. Shout out women. Shout out Italy. Frogs are up. We up.
We up. Shout out Italy. Shout out Prague. Thank you so much for listening to this absolutely insane episode of the Game Informer Show. We'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.